Good morning, everybody, and it is morning. It is 10 after 9, and thanks for joining me, and I'm glad to have you all. Now, today is going to be a montage of before I watered, during watering, and after watering. And I'll try and cover everything while I'm doing it so that you can see it actually happen, and just take out the parts that are time consuming, like timing, that you don't need to see and will make the video very long. So I'm going to get started. Now I'm going to show you how they look before I water. Okay, a lot of them are in spike right now, and I want to show you our humidity is running about 50 to 60, and I do mist once a day, but this is what the aerial roots look like. And in the pot, it's very dry here. If I go down in here, it's very dry. Okay, so we have quite a few spikes coming, and we have a real pretty one coming here. This is how they look before watering day. Now there's a brown root here. This is an old root. I do not cut it off. It probably got fertilizer burn or discolored from bark or anything. I do not worry about it. Other roots are growing off of it. Nice new green ones. So I just want to see you to see. This was the last leaf. It just grew while it was even in bud. So moon glow. Both sides of her are beautiful. Let's turn her around this way. Okay. She still has this few to open. Now, because these are small, I'm hoping I'll get something from them. I do give them a little extra water, talking a tablespoon or so, halfway. Okay. This hanging pot is beautiful. Oops. Now, this one is hanging right in the window all the time. This is how the aerial roots look before they're watered. No barking, Maggie. And this little basket is starting to open. Okay. And let's just go in the other room. This leaf has been growing while it's also been spiking. It's okay, it's okay. It's okay, dear. Those are real roots coming out. But I'll never pull them off again. Next time I'll just shake bark out that it needs repotted. Now this is the big lip, and I got it for Valentine's Day, and it was in flower for, about 3 months after that. So it is having some budding, but not as strong because it should have rusted, I think. Okay, this is the orchid that I did at the Salmon Arm Orchid Club, where I gave a talk, and it has one huge long spike and buds. And this is the Monet pot. The purples are coming out, whites, and this one's not quite. This one's always a little behind the other two. So maybe I just wanted you to see how the aerial roots look, how the pots. This tiny little one, some of them I stake, some of them I don't. So this is the one that had the fall, and I had to, one leaf got broke right off. This one got damaged, and this one got damaged, but it's growing new leaves quickly, and probably this spring, it will also regroup. So even these, this was a new leaf, it's firm, but these have been suffering, but they will come on, and this spring is when I hope they will come on. So that's what's happening here. Now, before I do any watering, these are the containers I use. I have a bucket and another tote that we don't like to throw things away. There was something old that broke, and Jack glued it, and it works great for setting orchids in. And for some of the smaller ones, I always have 2 bowls, and I have my pitcher for when I water the ones in the shower. So I'm going to get it set up and start filling the sink, and I'll show you how that goes. Okay, here we go. Okay, let's get into the sink. Okay, so what I do is with the sink, I make sure the water is warm. Okay, I make sure the water is warm. And then I have my CalMag, which goes in first. And I have it in a bottle, and I have written on it 1/4 teaspoon to 1 gallon. Now the sink holds 5 gallons, but I fill it to about 4 because when you put the plants in. So 1/4 teaspoon, that's a teaspoon of CalMag. So I have a 1 teaspoon. Sometimes it overflows a little bit, and I don't worry about that, but make sure you stir that in, and stir in very good the crystals. This is my fertilizer. It doesn't have to be this kind, it can be any kind, but with the high first number. So, I got this one wet in there. So, this is the same, 1/4 teaspoon to 1 gallon. So the sink will get 1 teaspoon. So there we go. I'll make sure I stir it really good. I have this a little cooler than you might use on a baby bottle if you're feeding a baby. So there we go. Now I'm going to do this for all my containers. The bucket will get, it'll get probably about almost the teaspoon. And same with this one. Probably 3/4 teaspoon. And my watering can, which is 3 liters, will get 1/4 teaspoon of each. And the bowls will get 1/4 teaspoon. So there we are. This is full. And I need to stir it. I don't usually use that one. I like to use this one because I stir that in really good. There, because I catch bark with this later. So I am going to get all my containers ready, and I'll be back to you when I'm there. Thanks. Okay, I'm back again. Just get this so I can see what you're seeing. Okay, I have the water in all my containers. Make sure you go back after if you have a crystal fertilizer. Make sure you stir it really good and that all the little crystals that were dry have now gone into the water. So I always go back before I start putting my orchids in, and I do that. So here's my first orchid. And what I do always is I always run some fresh water. Now we have no shortage of water in Salmon Arm most times, so I can do it this way. But if you have a shortage of water, you could have a pitcher, pour it over something, let it drain out, and I'm sure you figured out ways of doing it. So this one here is now ready to go into the solution. So I think I'm going to put it over in the glued together one. Now sometimes when I put them in, I'll show you that in a minute, but sometimes what happens is I didn't put enough water in and it's not coming quite to the surface. In fact, I will show you. Okay. So I'm just going to add a little more water. Until I'm sure everything's getting covered. Now, the aerial roots, they really don't start absorbing water for about 10 minutes. So I usually give them the rinse when I rinse them off, and then I keep going back and I have my cup, and what I do is I go back, whoops, and I give them a little rinse. So that's how I get them. You could also take a paper towel and wrap it around them if you have real dry ones, but I don't have that trouble. So that's what I do. And then it takes time because they're a little drier, because they are aerial roots. They're very natural. It's how all the orchids' roots are in the wild. So they take a little while because they also have a protective coating so moisture can't get out. So that's why they take longer to start absorbing than the ones in the pot. So back to the sink. Whoops. Sorry if this is a little bumpy, but I'm doing my best here. Okay, so now we have another one. I don't start timing until I have them all in their containers. Then I usually time for 15 minutes while I go around and maybe water house plants, clean bowls, clean the shelves where they've been. There. Now this one, I take out of its container and I try not to get the flowers wet. I do not worry about the crowns. All mine are planted very high in the pot, and I wipe them all when I'm finished watering in the winter. In the summer, when they're outside, they dry quickly. And I also have a fan that I put on in both rooms where my orchids are, and that helps them dry, and I always put it on after watering day. So now here's a little one. This one's just starting to open. Yeah, it's so cute. And there's a close-up of the roots. So I make sure I get the aerial roots really good. And then I think I have room in the first pot I use to put this one. And it has a little hanger because it hangs in the window. So I'm going to hang it in there to keep that one company. There. Now do not worry if my leaves are underwater. I'll just show you where I've put it. There we go. Because I wipe them good, I turn them on their side, I make sure after there's nothing left. I've never worried about the leaves here. And this one, it always gets put on a tilt, and then while it's soaking, I come around and I take my little jug and I make sure that it's getting water everywhere. Okay, so now we have two. We have room for some small ones over here, and I have the sink to do. So, let's see. This is new and adventurous. Okay. Now, let's see if we can find a spot for moon glow. There we go. This pot's a little heavier. Make sure you don't have overly hot or overly cold water. They will not like it. So, sometimes when I put them in the sink, they may not come right to the top of the pot. And then I make sure I have my little jug. And when I've got them in the sink, I always point the flowers away to where I won't bump them or hit them, and not have my toaster oven on, because one time I burnt one. So now we have this one. So let's give it a rinse. So this is what I do on watering day. This is how I always do it. I make sure I get all these aerial roots a bit of a rinse before they go into the water with the fertilizer. So, and I also make sure that the flowers are not in the water, or I'm not going to hurt them. So there, I have room for another small one. So this is the early bird, I think I called her. She spiked early. I have cut it off. That's what I do, because there are no IDs. If you have a species orchid, you should look up the particular care for that orchid. Mine are all no IDs, and they're hybridized, and they're grocery store orchids. And this is the best care, but if you have a species orchid, it might have a little bit different care regimen, and you have to hunt that out and find that. So there we go. That one is in the water. And I'm using some of the water from my other little container just to fill that up. So I'm going to set my timer for 15 minutes. Here's my timer, and I'm going to set it for 15 minutes, and I'll see you when I get that far later. There, I have my timer repping. I rinse these all around. I make sure I have the cooler water, and before I do anything, they're in the shower, and they're getting rinsed, and I'm just doing this. They've always been watered everywhere, leaves, everything. So while I'm already got my timer going on the ones in the kitchen, these ones are here, and I didn't bring the jug in, but I'll let that soak for a minute. I'll be back in, and I have my jug with my mixture of what I'm using for that watering day, and I will come in 2 or 3 times and make sure that water goes on them. So Here we go. The buzzer just went off. So I will take them out. I let them drain. Now, a lot of people won't reuse the same water, but I also think of conserving water, if nothing else. And I always make sure if I have a sad orchid, and I'm always checking mine very carefully, the sad ones are the ones I do last. And I don't have that many, so they'll each get their separate container. So I'm rinsing them off. The aerial roots are getting another rinse so they can absorb water. And then I put them on my drain rack while I get another one. This one's quite heavy. I have to tip it on its side. I always rinse before and after. It's what I do. I've always got the leaves wet. I always check them when I'm done. And that is the time I check for all kinds of issues. So now the sink is ready for another one. So this is where my schedule turns a bit. So this is the big lip fella I got. It's a no ID. I was lucky to get it last February. I'm surprised. After being in bloom for like 3 months when I had it, it decided to give me a few flowers. I am happy about that. So, it gets a good rinse, and then with a flower somewhere where I can't hurt it, it goes in the sink. And I have room for one more in here. Not too big a one, maybe this one. So what I will do is rinse that. You see, those ones are draining. And while they're draining, I set up the sink again with some more. So now I have one small one. No, it won't fit. I'll just leave it like that. So then that's when I come over here, and I'm going to make sure that you can see this. Okay, we're coming over here, and we're going to do some cleaning and wiping. Okay, so even though these ones may soak a little longer, this is how I always do it. Then I get the others out, so I don't start timing these yet. But if I have time and my buzzer hasn't gone for all of them, I will take them out a little early. So my two wiping things are a paper towel and these little from the Dollar Tree. I like these because they're soft and gentle, especially for under the leaves. And I usually dip it in my water. And this is when I wipe. And I look for scale. Sinus scale, anything sticky on the leaves that isn't love sticky bug stuff. You know, the sticky good stuff. Always look on the edges of the leaves and the spine and down in the bottom. This orchid has always been healthy. And it's my second oldest orchid. And it should have more leaves, but I should have repotted it sooner, and I didn't. So it is coming good, and I just repotted it last year, and it's very healthy, very strong. So then what I do is I take my paper towel, I'm sure there's no bugs on it, and I make a little point with it, and I make sure that I just dust off the leaves. They will dry because I put my fans on. And then I just make sure there's nothing. No water sitting in there. And they're all planted high. I plant high. They're not, no moss. They're not sitting anything wet. The top always dries and drains quickly through the pot with just bark. So there's no way anything is going to get soggy and rot roots. So this one is ready to go back on its plate. There. Okay. So those are in, and so now I have this one, and I only keep using this as the same one as long as it's good and as long as I haven't wiped anything off of the leaves, like some scale. And if I see some, I'll let you know, because once in a while I see it. Also, when your orchid is in bud, watch the stem for scale. They love the flowers. They love to get on the stem and crawl up, and watch the flowers, because if you see little dark dots, then you'll want to take a Q-tip and even just a little bit of water and wipe them off, because scale love flowers. So I am going to continue in this way. This one has to drain a little longer. I usually set it on its side. Okay, and then I have my stand. This was a fondue pot stand. And this one needs a good drain. And this was an old lamp. The hole in the bottom where the water drains out, that was the top of the lamp, which came up with the metal thing for the bulbs. And the base, which Jack cut off, was the bottom of the lamp. And then he drilled some holes. I loved it. I saw it at a sale. I loved it. I kept it for a while before we even did anything with it. So I just find this very, I guess, artistic. I matched the flower to the pot, and there. So this one gets a wipe, same way. I have never had crown rot, not with just bark. Sometimes if moss is good if you just add a little to keep in, you need it. I don't need it. But if you have a drier climate, you want to add, just chop it fine, fluff it up, and make sure it's not all sitting in one spot in your pot. And as far as putting it on the top, I don't bother. My roots that are on the surface have got used to it. They're almost like an aerial root. They're very strong and healthy. Now, in my pot where it was soaking and I had it tipped on its side, this is where I use my little strainer, because I have to go back and get any bark that tipped out of it and put it back like that. So then this one is looking good. I don't see anything on the stem, and then I always check the flowers to keep them healthy. Now while they're in bud, you do not want to have them in anything that's unusual to what they're in, their conditions have been. Don't change anything until all the flowers are open. Then you can move your orchid wherever you want, but avoid drafts. Moist drafts too. So this one is ready to go back. Okay, I'm going to take these last ones out and sit them to drain, like so. And I always tip them on their side to get all the ones where the pots are attached. I make sure there's no water left in the bottom. Now I have two empty over here. This is how my watering day goes. So I will give this one some water. Not wetting the flower. Everything else is getting wet, and sometimes me more than I want to be. So I think this one will actually go in here. Yep, that works just good. And one more big one, probably this one. That will fit down into the other bucket. And to make sure, you know, sometimes those leaves stop the water from getting on the bark, so make sure you lift them up. This prevents any burning of roots. Into the other pot. There. And I always make sure I have wiping cloths. Set for 15 minutes, even though these are a little longer, but if I'm in the kitchen a little bit early, then I start the same routine and it works good. So my 15 minutes is set. I'll give you a quick view of what it looks like. And I have the little baby here soaking in the small pot. That's the one I cut off the bottom. The monopodial stem was so long, it had no leaves, and I just put it in bark. I didn't do anything else, and it grew 2 new leaves, 3, and we'll see what happens this year. No sign of roots. I don't know how this is going to go, whether it's going to grow some roots or it's going to keep wanting to grow off of the original root. So these are all soaking, those are draining. So this is what's happening. And over here is where I line up the ones that are next. Now this pot had nice big holes, and this is watering day, and they're happy from the humidity in the air, plus they get misted once every morning. Just from a distance, I'm not soaking it, I'm just putting the mist in the air. So these are the ones that are lined up for next, and I'll be back in about 15 minutes or so. Okay, there's about 5 minutes left on the buzzer, and I'm going to take those ones out the sink that went in before I set the buzzer, and it usually turns out pretty good. So they get rinsed. Oh boy, the other day we had a major windstorm. Poor Jack and I, it about 3 in the morning, it started to wind and it woke us up. It was blowing things on the other patio, across the patio. The greenhouse was like a big balloon, and by the time we got up in the morning, there was no power. 1 layer of plastic was off of the greenhouse, and we had to go outside and spend the morning putting plastic back. That has never happened. Some places got like 100 kilometer-an-hour winds. I think it was about 80 in Salmon Arm. We have never seen wind like that. And the power was off for half the day, at least. So we missed that. But there's always something happening somewhere. So now I have these here, and I have to pick what ones to put in the sink. Now, because I do not want to get any water on the flowers, I'm going to set this cool. I'm going to give this a good rinse and set it in the sink with the flowers facing me. I'm making sure I get all the aerial roots. This one got repotted last year, and I left it in the pot, and I just shook all the bark out and put new bark in. And this is also, I don't know how many times long I've had this orchid, but now I don't know if you can see in here. This is a good question. But if you can see in here, all the different spots that have grown flowers and been cut off, just boom, boom, boom in a row. So now what I'm going to do is probably put my cloth on the edge. You have to be tricky with some of yours when you have different pots, but I love the fun of having different pots. So now that is not all in the water, but the flowers are safe. So then what I do is take my jug, and while I'm waiting for everything, I pour the water over it. I'm not getting the flowers, and I make sure I come back and do that. So now I have a little bit of room in the back. I'll probably take this one. Give it a rinse. So now I'm sort of back on schedule, although I don't set the timer till I have all new ones in all my containers. There, now this flower gets set the other way. That leaves me enough room to dip. There's one thing I didn't do. I usually take this and put it upside down the sink so no bark goes down into the trap. So that way I wipe these and these start to soak, and then I can take those ones out. So this is the big lip, and I always check. Now some people don't like to wipe the bottom of the leaves. I'm only wiping if I see something, because that's where they're more fragile. So if I see, or maybe a few drops, and this is just like a breath of wind in the forest. This one I haven't seen any problem with, I haven't seen any problem at all with bugs on this one. So I'm just going to set it over here for a minute, and I'll put it away after we get some soaking. So this is how it goes, and oh, see, there goes my timer. That was when I had all my containers full. I don't see any bugs on this one. The stem looks good. Always check. If you see something sticky or brown on this stem, then you want to get it. So I'll just put this one here for a minute and take these ones out. So I put them on their side, let them drain good, give them a little rinse. This is going to be one of my prizes for all the damage it suffered. One of these days it'll be just so happy. It's already getting happy. Okay. And then this one, tip it on its side and let some of the water go into the bucket. So this way, and then when I'm through, the bucket of water goes out to the greenhouse for the fruit trees or whatever's out there that needs a little bit of water. Okay, so they go there ready to be wiped off. And the next one's for the pots. We're doing good, you know, we're doing good. Probably the big pot. I'll take this one out of its stand and I'll put it in the bucket after I rinse it. It's very easy when you're doing a video to forget something. Oh, I have a little I have a little hint that's sort of bugging me, because I turned on the computer this morning and somebody left this comment, and this is something that I I don't know if you have to really say to people, you know what, if you haven't, you know that saying, if you can't be positive, don't say anything. Maybe that, because it did hurt my feelings a little bit. And it's not about orchids. If you leave a thumbs down, you want to talk about orchids, that's fine. But if it's about someone's personal care. Now, yes, I cut my hair off, and they go, why did you do that to yourself? Well, you know what? Maybe if you're trying to hurt my feelings, you did. And it was my decision, and really, why say something to hurt someone's feelings? Why? You know, there's no reason for it. And this is my answer to you. Whatever your reasons were, it did hurt my feelings. And maybe if you don't like it, just don't watch. I'm sorry, but that's how I feel. So, and thank you for the people that did like it, but it's not about my haircut. And the reason I cut it off, when I'm outside in the air and the wind, it's always in my face. When I'm bending over, it's always in my face. I've been cutting my hair since I was a teenager. We grew up in a poor family. I never went to the hairdresser, and I've always cut my hair. And everybody else for free that wants a haircut, I gave him a haircut. When I lived up north in the sticks where there was no hairdresser, I cut anybody's hair because they wanted it. Now, I always say I'll cut it, but I don't want to hear any complaints. So, I just want to say that. I do this every once in a while. It gets long, I cut it, gets long, I cut it, gets long, I cut it. There you go. That's the story. So anyway, thumbs down to you just for trying to hurt my feelings. I can do that on this channel. Anyway, I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to keep filling these buckets, and I'll be back later. Okay, I'm just cleaning up. I should be through in time to make our lunch, which is usually how it goes. And the little comment I was talking about was on my greenhouse video. And I just want to say, if you see somebody, smile at them. People are going through a lot of stuff, physical, mental, all kinds of things. That maybe even medical that you don't know about, and a smile will really help cheer them up. So I just want to say that. I'm going to show you the orchids now that they're back in place after watering, and then I will upload it to my computer, and then I have to render all the pieces together on my old computer. It takes a while, so I'll get this up as soon as I can. Thank you for being a member of this group, and if you want to email me with orchid questions or something you want to talk to me about, I am at orchidfriends@yandex.com, and I'll put it underneath. Everybody is sending pictures of their orchids, and they're beautiful, and a lot of us are enjoying it. And if you've sent pictures, go back into the community channel where I post them after you send them. If you're sending me pictures and giving me permission to post them, I post them and put your name so other people can see whose orchids they are and what they're doing. And a lot of us are learning so many different things from this. So you can email me with a picture of your orchids, and I can post it on the community channel for you. And people are communicating there about these pictures. And if you've had a picture posted, please go in and see if anybody has a question they want to ask you, and you can answer it right there on the community channel. So one quick browse through, and I'll be off to make lunch. ZZ plant over there is growing like holy smokes. I don't know why I want to say this right now, but lots of new leaves coming. Oh boy, that one's stuck in there. Lots of new leaves. It seems happy here. I had it by the window, but just kind of gets reflected light here, and it seems to be very happy. So, okay, this is after watering. I still notice they like the black tea watering day. I really do. I just noticed that the roots look a little different, and I think it's a good thing. So I'm really only watering with bought fertilizer on those 2 days. So some people say they don't need a lot of fertilizer. I think varying what you're giving them is doing them a lot of good. And it really won't show for maybe a year. A lot of changes I've made this year. But it is worth it. I love doing my orchids. So anyway, I'm glad to be able to share this with you today. And this is how I water on watering day. So that's all for now. And oh, I could quickly show you out the window. Today was frosty on all the roofs. I think it still is. And cold. I think we had this big weather change come, and that's why we had the wind the other day. So, yeah, it's cold out there, but look, no snow. No snow. Okay, bye everybody. Thanks for giving me thumbs up, and thanks for subscribing. Bye now.